For years, rumors circulated about the existence of certain photographs, images some claimed were never meant to be public. According to online speculation and unnamed sources, these files allegedly disappeared whenever anyone tried to track them down. Supporters of the theory argued these were not ordinary photos, but images they claimed showed Meghan Markle in the same social circles as Jeffrey Epstein, long before her entry into royal life. None of these claims were ever verified. Major photo agencies and public archives consistently reported no accessible records, and no authenticated images were produced. To many observers, the absence of evidence only fueled further speculation, with some suggesting the material had been deliberately restricted or miscatalogued. From time to time, the rumors resurfaced brief mentions on forums, fleeting references on social media before fading again just as quickly. No confirmed releases followed, and no credible institutions validated the claims. What remained was not proof, but a lingering narrative about secrecy, access, and how easily speculation can take on a life of its own in the digital age. And then suddenly what many believed had been buried re-emerged into public view. That moment, real or perceived, is where this story begins. Not with the royal wedding or the carefully curated fairy tale, but with questions surrounding material some claim was suppressed and later resurfaced. Because once speculation escapes containment, it tends to spread quickly, as the alleged images circulated online. Long dormant rumors began echoing again, claims tied to the broader social networks associated with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Some online commentators pointed to court transcripts and secondhand accounts, asserting that Maxwell, now incarcerated, had spoken broadly about Hollywood's social circles from years past. These references, however, were vague, unverified, and never substantiated with evidence directly linking Meghan Markle to wrongdoing. Others pointed to earlier reporting around Virginia Giuffre's civil case against Prince Andrew, noting that various public figures were discussed internally by legal teams during investigative phases. According to court reporting at the time, no claims were filed against Meghan Markle, and she was never called to testify. Legal experts have emphasized that such considerations do not imply involvement or misconduct, only that investigators often cast wide nets when examining social proximity. Importantly, none of these references amounted to accusations, charges, or findings. No credible evidence has ever shown Meghan Markle to be involved in Epstein's crimes. Still, in the ecosystem of online speculation, proximity and coincidence are often exaggerated into narrative. When old claims resurface without context, they can quickly appear more substantial than they are. As fragments of these discussions reappeared. Some online researchers began claiming they saw patterns overlaps in timelines, social circles, or locations. But without verified documentation, those patterns remained speculative interpretations rather than confirmed connections. What emerged was not proof, but a renewed mystery fueled by repetition, ambiguity, and the internet's tendency to conflate rumor with revelation. Meghan Markle was not the first woman to rise from relative anonymity, marry into royalty, and later have questions raised about her past social associations. Historical parallels include figures like Princess Sophia of Sweden and Princess Martha Louise of Norway. According to some newly cited documents, both reportedly had interactions with high-profile social circles years before their royal marriages. The pattern suggested by these reports is consistent, though not proven. Individuals who lived relatively private lives on the edges of elite social networks, later stepping into royal courts, only to have aspects of their earlier experiences scrutinized when documents or records surfaced. This context frames Meghan's story as part of a broader narrative about public scrutiny and elite social environments. Much of the focus turns to her pre-royal years before fame, headlines, and the royal marriage. Sources describe this period as far from simple, placing her in circles that blended high-profile events, influential social networks, and international gatherings. For example, in 2015, she was reportedly present at the opening of Soho House in Istanbul. According to some insiders, she attended not as a headline celebrity, but as part of the social scene, contributing to the energy and atmosphere of the event. While not a public figure at the time, her presence placed her among influential businesspeople and prominent socialites in major cities. Reports suggest this was not an isolated incident, but part of her broader experience navigating elite social spaces before her royal life. During this period, Meghan Markle reportedly traveled frequently to New York, sometimes coinciding with the times Prince Andrew was in the city. At the time, she was not a public figure, so little attention was paid. Some sources have claimed that even members of her professional circle were curious about how she afforded such frequent travel, noting that she often flew business class, stayed in upscale hotels, and moved in social circles beyond the typical reach of a cable TV actress. While her lifestyle appeared glamorous, insiders suggest it reflected a network of connections that may have influenced her later opportunities. Observers point to two key moments as illustrative of her early navigation of elite social environments. The first occurred in 2006 at a party in the Hamptons reportedly attended by high-profile figures, including Harvey Weinstein and Mandy Moore. At the time, Markle was relatively unknown, without press coverage or red carpet attention. Yet she was present in circles that most aspiring actors would never enter. The second moment came a decade later, in February 2016. According to Markle's former co-star, this coincided with the month, she later said, she met Prince Harry. Sources also report that she may have attended a Yacht Week event around the same time a series of social gatherings, known for mixing models, businesspeople, and celebrities. These accounts are unverified and should be understood as part of the broader social context surrounding Markle's early career rather than definitive evidence of any particular activity. These Yacht Week events reportedly brought together entertainers, businesspeople, and young women seeking access to elite social circles. Sources suggest that introductions and networking often happened in these environments, rather than through chance. Whether Meghan Markle met Prince Harry through such events is unknown. What is clearer is that this period marked the end of her life, largely lived out of the public, at her final year before stepping fully into the spotlight. One source frequently cited in accounts of this era is John Lefebvre, who organized private events and high-end parties for wealthy clients. Speaking about his experiences, Lefebvre described Markle as someone familiar within these social circles, attending luxury gatherings and private yacht events. He characterized her as socially connected, moving with ease among affluent attendees. According to him, after Markle married into royalty, images from her earlier life, such as photos from Dubai, were largely removed from public view. Though these claims have not been independently verified, that Lefebvre's statements are presented as his observations from within the social environment, offering a lens into Markle's early career rather than as verified evidence of any misconduct. They illustrate her exposure to high-profile networks and exclusive events. Rather than any specific actions or affiliations, AS attention turned to these earlier years. The narrative intersected with the legal world, where even minor details are scrutinized for relevance. When Virginia Giuffre prepared her civil case against Prince Andrew, investigators and legal teams examined a wide array of social connections and interactions, some of which mention Markle's name. While her inclusion in these considerations generated attention, it is important to note that she was never charged with or accused of wrongdoing. In legal terms, proximity or social overlap does not equate to involvement. During Virginia Giuffre's civil case against Prince Andrew, her legal team examined years of events, relationships, and social environments connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Their focus was not only on direct actions, but also on who was present, what they may have witnessed, and how different social circles overlapped. According to some sources, Meghan Markle's name came up in this process not as a defendant, nor as someone accused of wrongdoing, but potentially as a witness who could provide context. There were reportedly 3 reasons for this consideration. First, Markle resided in the United States, making her accessible to the court. Second, She was said to have been socially close to Prince Andrew during certain years, which might have allowed her to observe events or conversations. Third, her earlier social networks allegedly overlapped in some ways with Epstein-associated circles. It is important to note that these claims are sourced from reporting and insiders. Markle was never charged, accused, or formally involved in the case. This consideration of her name was part of a broader legal strategy, intended to identify relevant witnesses and information. No deposition involving Markle ever occurred, and there is no public evidence of her involvement beyond these claims. Behind the scenes, the royal household has historically managed the public image of its members carefully. According to some insiders, the monarchy was aware of aspects of Markle's past and took steps to manage potential scrutiny. To the public, she was presented as a modern, humanitarian duchess, symbolizing a new chapter for the royal family. Any resurfacing of past images or documents would inevitably attract attention not only on her personally, but on the institution itself, where every revelation can carry national significance. As the purported files and images began circulating again, it highlighted the tension between private history and public image. This moment, whether viewed as a crisis or merely renewed scrutiny, represents a point where previously hidden material meets widespread attention, challenging the narratives constructed around individuals and institutions alike. Whispers from individuals familiar with Epstein's social circles have fueled ongoing speculation. The past, it seems, rarely stays fully hidden. Meghan Markle entered royal life with a history largely unknown to the public, attending private events, social gatherings, and exclusive parties before her marriage. Much of this background remained private and shielded from public scrutiny for years. However, as some previously unseen photos and documents have resurfaced, names and connections from her early social life have begun to attract attention. Reports indicate that researchers and journalists are tracing these links across cities, years, and events. The royal family, which has weathered centuries of public scrutiny, reportedly observes such developments carefully, managing what becomes public without direct comment. What unfolds next remains uncertain. Additional materials could surface, and more sources may come forward. While the full scope of these reports is not confirmed, the renewed attention highlights how private histories can intersect with public life, particularly for high-profile figures. This is not necessarily the conclusion of the story, but rather a moment where previously private details are brought into public awareness. An initial ripple that may prompt further scrutiny or discussion in the months and years ahead.